conversation is going round. People talking about the colors come to town. Fresh as a summer breeze, she'll take you by surprise.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Fresh Waves here on Whistle FM. We have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to start the day off with Jolana Pettifer and some decorating and renovating and ideas like that. And then we're following up the second hour with Meredith Deasley, and we'll be talking about your soul and your soul's journey. I can't wait. So this is going to be a great day. Jason Rumball is our technical producer today. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Bren. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. We'd like to give a big shout out to Reese's Market and Bakery for the fabulous muffins today. They even have gluten-free options and wheat-free options, so always go into Reese's and check them out. Strawberries are a-coming. They're going to be a week late, but they are here. Hi, Jolana.
Hi, good morning.
Nice to have you on board.
It's so great to be here this morning.
We look forward to you. You know, it's a once-a-month thing.
It's always fun.
Third Wednesday of the month. Anyone can count to 3, so look at your calendar. Go 1, 2, 3. Jolana Day.
Yeah,
Woo-hoo!
and it's the hump day, right?
Yeah.
So when you hit Wednesday, everything is looking really good because we're getting closer to the weekend.
Halfway there. All right. We are going to talk about, we've talked about summer decorating, and we did that last month so that we could get ready for summer this month. Now, summer's only been the last 2 days. I love that saying, summer in Canada. Yes, last year I remember it was on a Wednesday. And that's kind of what we're dealing with this year. We've had 2 days of summer so far, and it's all going to end tomorrow. So
I know, back
it'll
to
be
rain.
back again.
I know.
But we are 2 days away from the summer solstice. We've got full moons happening. People are getting that summer feeling.
Yeah.
And
there's a spring in people's steps.
Yeah. You feel better, don't you?
I think it's coming.
I do. I feel better when it's summer.
I do too, yeah. Feels
now,
nice.
I know more than 3 people who have bought homes this year or whose children have bought homes. Yeah. And they're looking, one I know up in Cookstown, they're looking at tearing down and building new.
Right.
Others I know of are actually renovating old farmhouses, which is really cool. That's a really neat thing, giving an old farmhouse a modern touch. And then there's just the people who buy a house in a subdivision that's going through transitions, and there are many of them. So you have a subdivision that's from maybe the 1980s, maybe the early 90s, and you're buying it now. The people have downsized, they've moved on, and young families and young people are buying these houses.
They are.
So there's a lot of potential for renovation.
There is.
Let's talk about renovating your house.
And I am actually personally vested because our son Aaron has just purchased a home up in Mount Albert.
Nice.
It is amazing. It was built in the early 80s, so the construction of it is absolutely incredible.
Now, is that a trait of the 80s? Incredible construction?
Yeah, it was done where everything was very, very solid. Just really well built. So 5/8 drywall instead of 1/2 inch. Like, just really, really incredible things. Things like you don't find as much stucco as you do now everywhere on ceilings. They had all flat ceilings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nothing had actually been done since the early 80s. Now, the lady who lived there kept it in perfect condition. Nothing had been replaced, but as I had said to the kids, I mean, that's what you want. That's a diamond in the rough. You are actually going to have your vision come to life. You are not buying into someone else's vision. So it's a really, really exciting task to decide, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? What do we want to keep? What do we want to change? In his particular case, he had the valances, which every house had in the 80s, where your drapes would go in behind them. So we took out all the valances, we removed walls, we made spaces bigger. So it was actually very, very exciting to watch the change, and it was an instant change. So,
now, you have the expertise to know which is a load-bearing wall and which isn't.
Yeah.
You just don't take a sledgehammer like you see
you
on
get a
TV.
Contractor. Oh, my goodness,
yeah, you see on TV these people are saying, so we're just going to take this wall down here. And what you don't realize is that doesn't happen the way it does on TV, where five guys with sledgehammers just go at it, and it's like a raw man hour.
1 hour and it's all done.
Yeah, there's a lot of planning that goes into taking down a wall.
Of planning. Yeah.
And some walls are just accent walls because we had different styles in the 80s, didn't we?
Of course we did. Smaller rooms,
Rooms, exactly.
So.
Lots of doors. I remember even pocket doors on almost every room in the houses.
Yep.
If it didn't have an actual door that you could see, it was a pocket door that slid across, remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
I remember we took down a wall at our house on Wooten Way in Markham. We took down a wall between the kitchen and the family room because I had little kids and I wanted to be able to see them playing in the family room.
That whole great room kitchen, right?
Yeah, we put that little railing in because there were stairs down, so it was a different level. And when the original owners came back because they had to sign something, they looked at it, they were aghast. And she said, why would you ever want anyone looking into your kitchen?
Yeah.
And she had pocket doors on all three doors that entered the kitchen. And I said, because I don't mind the way I cook.
Yeah.
Good with it.
That's funny.
But just different styles for different times, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think today, we like the feeling of space, like open space. Right. I think because we are always rushing around, we're rarely in our homes. You don't want to come home and feel like you're in a cubicle again. We're already in cubicles at work. We're in offices. Although that is changing drastically too. They are going very much to the open concept, where you have, cubicles side by side. So, I think that whole feeling of space just makes everyone feel a little more relaxed, a little more comfortable, and it's actually really fun to design a bigger space as opposed to a really small space.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Gives the place a whole different feel, doesn't it?
It does, very much so.
Like it really is a different kind of a thing. Okay, so if you're talking about a reno, what are some of the most popular things to renovate that make your 1980s house? We'll just use 80s as an example.
Absolutely.
It could be anybody. Yep. We could talk about a century home if you wanted to, but what do you do to make the house that you just bought that's new to you
feel like a home,
from the 80s? What are some of the key things that are going to make a difference?
The very first thing we did is rip out the carpeting everywhere, including in the bathrooms. And that was a thing. It was a thing. Yes. It was a thing. So we ripped out all the carpet. Now in this particular case, it was all wood trim everywhere. So we took a look at the trim. It was in really good condition. So we decided in this case to keep the trim, paint it white, but we added a back band. So it just takes
What's a back band?
A back band gets applied to your casing and it makes it feel bigger and beefier. So it usually stands out a little bit further, obviously, than the casing that you have because it has to butt up to it, right?
Right.
So it just gives you the look of custom without having to rip and tear everything out. So carpeting for sure. Assess all your trim. Like, is it a trim that you can work with, either by painting it or adding that extra beef to it? We upgraded all the baseboards because if we were adding that depth to all the casings, I felt that we really needed to add the bulk to the bottom as well. So we upgraded that. The next step was, so what kind of flooring do you want to do in these spaces? And it was decided very easily.
What's underneath the carpet?
In their case, plywood.
Okay.
Not masonite. Plywood. So again, we're going back to the 80s.
Right.
So the floors underneath are in great shape. So we, I shouldn't use the word we because I didn't. Aaron and Jess actually screwed the floors down, got rid of lots and lots of squeaks. And what'll happen before the floors are actually applied, they'll do just a sand where the boards meet each other because sometimes there can be just a little bit of a height difference. But in their case, they actually did decide to go with engineered hardwood. And we've talked many times about hardwood flooring, and engineered is wonderful because it gives you your top veneer and then it gives you your plywood, which they lay one layer is laid one way, next layer is laid another way, so that we don't have to worry about all the expansion and contraction, especially in our climate up here. We have lots of humidity, we have the heat, we have cold, we have freezing, so it was just a really great choice for them to make. They took a little bit of time trying to decide on the finishes. And as you know, finishes can make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
I think more people today are a little more relaxed, so they don't need all that shine that we had years and years ago. It shows every speck of dust. It just shows everything. So in their case, they ended up going with a beautiful wire brushed, which again is going to hide a multitude of sins. So yeah, and they went with a mid-tone. Again, if you go too dark, you're still going to see lots of dust everywhere. Right. So keeping it sort of from that lighter to mid-tone, it's such an easy functional flooring to have.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, so did they do different floorings in different rooms, or did they kind of keep it consistent throughout?
Yeah, so they literally started at their front door railings, and they went all the way through the main floor, which, again, I said to them, you're never going to regret that decision. If you want to add warmth, you add it by adding some great area carpets, some draperies. I mean, there's ways to bring in warmth. You're going to have sofas, sectionals, whatever, chairs. That's going to add the soft, good items in there where it's going to feel cozy. But in terms of cleanability, I mean, learn how to use the Swiffer and you're all set. Like, it's wonderful. It's great. Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the things that we talked about off air, that makes a huge difference is stairways.
Yeah, it does. Very much so. So in their particular case, they had a staircase that had remember the old camouflage carpet? That would have like the creams and the yellows and the greens, and it's kind of looked like camouflage.
Oh, really?
So yeah, again, this is carpeting going from way back, and it was still in great shape. But we talked about changing the railings to the wrought iron. So we wanted to update, make it feel a little bit younger than what it was. And at the same time, I suggested let's also address the staircase. So they again pulled off all the carpets, and we were not
I remember
lucky.
The carpets, right? The carpets in the 80s where they had those nice champagne colors, and then people would put the piece of plastic in the middle so that it wouldn't wear in the middle.
Oh, yeah,
that's attractive.
So fun. So we were lucky in that the stairs were in really good shape. However, they did not have fancy treads. Now, the tread is the part of the stair that you step on. So we had to order all new treads. So we went with the oak treads because, of course, it's a hardwood. So be careful when you make your decisions what you're going to do.
Right. The softer woods tend to be the ones where you get the groove of where the feet...
eventually. Yeah, they do. They're going to wear down. And the risers is the back part of the stair. So you have the tread that you step on. Right. Then you have the vertical element. That's called the riser, and we decided to paint those white because we didn't want the staircase to feel heavy. Okay. And then, of course, you have...
Can you use a laminate on stairs, or is it not recommended?
No, you want to have a full tread.
Right.
Yeah, definitely you want to have a full tread, because as soon as you start having seams in a staircase, first of all, it looks really awkward, but it just does not
and it doesn't hold up, I don't think, it's as well.
Does not look good, because then how do you finish off the nosing? It opens up a can of worms for a whole lot of other stuff. So because they're doing the risers in the white, I also suggested that the stringers, which is the part of the stair that holds the staircase together, which comes up the sides of the stairs, we are also painting those white. So it's going to give them the drama with the new treads, but it's also still going to give them that light and airiness.
So the step itself will be made out of
dark.
Oak.
Yeah, and it'll be stained. Well, it'll be stained to match their floors, right? So it'll be kind of that mid-tone,
and then the white around. Wow, that's gonna look really cool.
So it's gonna really
when it's done,
spruce it up.
Send us a picture so we can put it on the Facebook page, and then people can be listening to the show, and we'll have some pictures.
The other thing I should mention, we talked about the new baseboards. So in this particular case, the flooring is 3/4 inch. So we pre-installed and pre-painted all the baseboards and put them up at 7/8 so that the wood would go down underneath.
Right.
And then, of course, you're going to finish it off with that small little piece, which we call a shoe mold, goes down in front. So if there are any little bits of gaps, or if the floor is really wobbly, it allows you to kind of hide any imperfections that there are. So, and it also, in my opinion, makes the baseboard look amazing. So it just gives it that extra layer.
Sounds great. So I bet Erin's really excited to be putting this project together.
Oh, yes. I mean, everybody is exhausted, but it looks absolutely incredible. And they're doing 90% of the work themselves. Tim and I have been there to help out where we can.
Well, they're lucky to have you as parents because that's kind of like built-in builders.
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. And of course, choosing colors, right?
Yes.
We've talked many times about that.
Yeah.
Had some fun with those as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So you got the stairs and the flooring done. Would you take the hardwood into the kitchen? I mean, if it is a smaller bungalow, I have hardwood in my kitchen, but that was a personal preference. Yep. I find it warmer and softer. If I drop something on tiles, ceramic tiles, it just goes shatter. Yeah. And with 4 kids, I just figured the wood was a little more forgiving. But it's not forgiving in terms of, water. One kid runs into the kitchen, grabs onto a chair, spins the chair around, it falls on the floor, and I've got a dent in my hardwood. Mm-hmm. So, it is now 20 years later showing the wear and tear of having a big family with dogs and kids and all the rest of it. And water. We've had a couple of water incidents.
Yeah, you have to be careful. So to answer your question, and again, I'll use Aaron's case just because we're working on it. Yeah. They've decided to 2-phase their project. So the first phase was to remove all the walls, get everything paint ready, paint, new floors, new trims, and the whole back area of the house. Phase 2 is going to be kitchen, front hall, going into the powder room, and then going into the laundry room. So because they know how they live and it's going to be in and out of garages, they love to be outside, they would like to do a ceramic in that front area so that it would be just a little bit more forgiving, easy to clean. And again, kitchen will be a project that they'll more than likely do next year. So for this year, they have vinyl. They're just going to leave the vinyl as it is, and they will do that in phase 2. So, it's a huge undertaking when you're trying to renovate a home and live in it at the same time.
Yes, that's the trick.
So the kitchen for now is totally 100% usable. Is it dated? It is dated, but you know what? It's clean. It looks great. So they just decided they want to do this, move in, enjoy it, and then next year they're going to work on that. So that's something for people to keep in mind too. You can do the whole thing, but there's nothing wrong with doing it in phases.
Yeah, as long as it's practical to do it in phases,
Absolutely.
Because sometimes when people start projects and they decide to only do one room, it ends up being more expensive when you have an afterthought of, I could do that into that room too, and then you've got to worry about the lots aren't matching and all that
from
kind of
the
stuff.
get-go had a plan. You have to 100% have a plan.
Now, what about the windows? When you're looking at an older house, this is from the 80s, and in my mind, the 80s were yesterday afternoon, but I know for a fact they weren't. So, what do we do with the windows? Because they also can look dated, but they also sometimes have shown the wear and tear of being around for 40 years, and they need to be changed.
So again, they were fortunate in that was updated. Mm-hmm. But yes, if you've moved into an older home, you want to check your windows, check your seals. What's the R rating on it? Which is simply, is it keeping the heat in the winter, the coolness in the summer? Have seals broken on the windows? And that's very easy to tell because you'll usually find almost like a condensation on the inside of the window.
Right. You wipe it and you wipe it from both sides and it doesn't go away because it's between the panes of glass.
It doesn't go away. So you definitely have to be aware. And I mean, if you have a contractor that you know and trust, I would simply say have them come in. Usually when you buy a home too, you have a home inspector. So that would be something that the home inspector would bring to your attention as well. The other thing in the older homes, we also updated all the lighting. So what's great with that is you bring it up to code, you do the LED lighting, which of course, as you know, is just much more efficient. Put everything on dimmers because LEDs, no matter, even with the warmest of the LEDs, it's still quite bright. Mm-hmm. So just have dimmers installed. They are not expensive.
No, and they do save your lights too. The lights last longer.
100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So electrical would be the other thing that I always tell everyone, just highly recommend looking at your lighting.
And if you're going to be doing stuff with changing walls and things, that's the time to do your electric. Don't
we had an open ceiling. It was awesome.
Don't wait until the project's done and say, oh, we should have put in dimmers because now it's going to be a little more expensive and you've got to undo what you just did to get back at it, you know?
Yeah, and get someone who you can trust. Tyler was the young man that did Aaron's place, and he did an absolutely incredible job. He walked it through him. He talked about why he suggested certain things and where things should be done. I insisted.
He's an electrician?
He is, yeah. I insisted on moving lights because, of course, there's smack dab in a wall that you could put a great piece of art on. So, this is the time to get in there and move things. There were sconces, you know, and you have to have it removed properly. You cannot just drywall over top of it. So, you know, people will come in and say, oh, I hate those sconces. Can we just drywall over it? It's like, absolutely not. That has to be removed properly, and it'll cost you, but you need to make sure it's done
especially
properly.
if it's not a house that you're flipping a house, like just buying a fixer-upper, doing the minimum requirements and fixing it up and turning around and selling it is a whole different ball game.
It is.
To buying a place that you plan on living in.
Absolutely.
For any extended period of time, because it becomes your home. It's your place that you love.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about it, and you and I believe that when someone stages your house.
Yeah.
Say you decide to stay in that 1980s house. If a Jolana comes in the door and stages it to sell it, you look at it and think, why am I moving? It's so nice.
I know. You don't know how many people say that.
Yeah. So it's really interesting it's a good thing to do, to just take a look at your house. This is the time to do it too, because, you know, some people have cottages, or you know people that have cottages. I call it cottage surfing, you know, the people who go from other people's cottage to other people's cottage all summer long and never have to have their own. If you've got that plan in place, now's the time to do that painting or renovating in your house where you don't have to be living in it. You can get out for a while.
I cannot tell you what a coat of paint can do, even if you're not doing a full-on reno. Like, summer is a great time, right? The weather's really good.
Open the windows.
Open up the windows. It is absolutely incredible how it can change a room. Yeah. So if you're going into your bedrooms, or any room in the house for that matter, and you just kind of feel, a coat of paint, I promise you, a coat of paint will make a huge difference. Yeah. Huge difference.
For sure. Okay, we're going to take a break now. We'll hear the weather forecast, which is terrific for today if you're listening on Wednesday, and it's not so terrific for Sunday if you're... Anyway, but we will get to the weather and a few ads here on Whistle FM, and we will return to Fresh Waves and Jolana right after this break, so do stay tuned.